The phone call that changed everything came at 6:47 a.m. on a Friday. Colonel James Murphy from the Pentagon Procurement Office, and his voice had that tone you never want to hear from a government official. "Bob, we need to talk about Great Lakes Manufacturing's compliance status. We received notification yesterday that you're no longer the certified liaison for classified projects, but we haven't received the required 120-day advance notice." I was sitting in my kitchen, coffee getting cold, watching the sunrise over Lake Erie. My name's Robert Anderson, but everyone calls me Bob. I'm 52, been running operations at Great Lakes for 28 years, and I've got the kind of institutional memory that keeps defense contractors from losing their security clearances. Had, anyway. Past tense, as of Monday morning. When exactly did you receive this notification, Colonel? Yesterday afternoon. From a Jason Brooks, your new COO. He mentioned operations were being restructured and new personnel would handle Pentagon relations. But Bob, you know ITAR regulations. We can't maintain classified project status without proper liaison certification. I leaned back in my recliner, watching a hawk circle over my backyard. The pieces were falling into place exactly like I'd expected. What's the next step, Colonel? I'm initiating a compliance review. Effective immediately, all classified project work at Great Lakes is suspended pending resolution. After I hung up, I did the math. 3 major projects, Thunderbolt, Iron Shield, and Desert Hawk. Combined value of $200 million. Daily penalty of $750,000 until compliance restored. That's $5.25 million bleeding out every week while Jason Brooks figures out what he's done. See, here's what happened. Monday morning, Jason called me into conference room B at 7 a.m. sharp. No context, no pleasantries, just corporate speak that makes Navy veterans like me want to test the structural integrity of expensive office furniture. Jason had been at Great Lakes exactly 8 months, brought in by the board to modernize operations and streamline inefficiencies. The guy was 38, MBA from somewhere fancy, talked a good game about lean manufacturing and digital transformation. Problem was, he'd never spent a day on a factory floor. Never watched a machinist turn raw steel into precision components for Bradley fighting vehicles. Never had to explain to a Pentagon colonel why you can't just switch suppliers without checking security clearances. I'd been carrying my compliance binder for 3 weeks, ever since Jason started making noises about redundant oversight positions. Thick leather thing that makes airport security nervous, stuffed with every ITAR regulation, every DoD compliance requirement I'd memorized over nearly 3 decades. Red tabs for critical contracts, yellow for regulatory deadlines, blue section for Jason's disasters. The conference room smelled like fear and Harvey Goldman's expensive cologne when I walked in. Harvey's our CEO, been here since the Clinton administration. Usually shows up fashionably late to his own board meetings, but there he was at 7 a.m., already reaching for the antacids. Jason sat at the head of the table like he owned the place. Patricia Wells from Corporate Relations perched beside him, clipboard ready, looking like she'd rather be anywhere else. "Bob, thanks for joining us." Jason started with that fake-friendly consultant tone. "We're implementing some organizational changes. The board feels it's time for fresh perspectives in manufacturing oversight. Fresh perspectives. In defense contracting, where the Pentagon prefers continuity over creativity and requires background checks that take longer than most college degrees. We're offering you early retirement," Patricia said, sliding a folder across the table. "Generous terms, full pension, health benefits through 65. I didn't touch the folder. "You're firing me." "We prefer transition opportunity," Jason replied. "Your service has been valuable, but we need to adapt to changing market conditions." Changing market conditions. Our backlog was booked solid through 2027. We'd beaten every delivery deadline for 18 consecutive months. Employee safety was at an all-time high, Pentagon quality ratings spotless. The only thing needing change was Jason's understanding of how defense contracts actually work. "When does this take effect?" "Immediately. We'll handle client notifications and ensure smooth handover to your replacement." That's when I knew he hadn't read the contracts. Any of them. The man was about to fire the certified liaison for $200 million worth of active Defense Department projects without checking what that meant for the company's legal obligations. I signed the retirement papers without argument. Jason looked like he'd conquered Mount Everest with a spreadsheet. Harvey looked like he needed stronger antacids. "I'll clean out my office," I said, tucking my binder under my arm. "Actually," Jason said, eyeing the binder, "company documentation stays here for the transition team." I smiled. Not a friendly smile. Personal notes and reference materials I've collected over the years. Nothing proprietary. What I didn't mention was the file I'd slipped in that morning. My updated compliance certification listing me as sole certified liaison for projects Thunderbolt, Iron Shield, and Desert Hawk. The projects representing 78% of our current revenue. I walked past Tommy Rodriguez in the break room. 20-year plant supervisor, good man, family guy. Word travels fast in manufacturing. I gave him a small nod and kept walking. Past the quality control stations testing every component to tolerances measured in thousandths of an inch. Past CNC machines running 24/7 producing precision parts for America's military. Past the wall of photos showing our products in action overseas. Now, Friday afternoon, sitting in my kitchen with Colonel Murphy's words echoing in my head, I understood the beautiful simplicity of what was about to happen. Jason had just triggered the compliance clause I'd written after his predecessor tried similar nonsense back in 2019. The clause was buried in Section 12, subsection C of our main Pentagon contract. Any change in certified personnel responsible for classified project oversight required 120 days written notice and Pentagon approval. Failure to comply triggered automatic contract suspension and penalties of $750,000 per day until compliance restored. My phone was already ringing. Harvey Goldman, CEO, panic in his voice. "Bob, we need to talk. Bob, we need to talk. Emergency board meeting tomorrow morning." Harvey's voice shook like he'd been drinking coffee for 18 straight hours. It was 11:47 p.m. Friday night, and our CEO was calling my personal cell phone. "I'm retired, Harvey. Remember? The Pentagon suspended our contracts, all of them. They're talking about full compliance review, possible security clearance revocation. Bob, we're looking at bankruptcy." I walked to my kitchen window looking out at the dark lake. What did Jason tell them? He called Colonel Murphy Thursday to inform him about operational changes. Didn't mention certification requirements or advance notice. The colonel shut us down immediately. "How much is it costing you?" $750,000 a day in penalties, plus we can't deliver on scheduled orders. The board's in full panic. 3 members already called for Jason's resignation. I poured myself a bourbon. "What do you need from me, Harvey? Come back. Whatever it takes. Name your terms. I'm not interested in coming back as Operations VP, Harvey. Those days are over." Then what would it take? I thought about Tommy Rodriguez and his pension, about the machinists and engineers who'd been building military equipment when Jason Brooks was figuring out multiplication tables, about the responsibility that comes with keeping America's military supplied with tools they need to stay safe. Chief Manufacturing Officer, direct report to the board, not to Jason, full authority over all defense contracts and Pentagon relations, and Jason's gone by Monday morning. Long silence. The board will need to vote. Then you better call a meeting. Saturday morning, 8 a.m. Sharp. Emergency board session in Harvey's corner office. I arrived in my best suit, carrying my binder and a folder marked Pentagon Compliance Requirements, Confidential. 5 board members, Harvey and nervous attorney Alan Peterson, clearly dragged away from weekend golf. Jason wasn't invited. "Gentlemen," I began, setting materials on the conference table, "we have a problem costing this company approximately $5.25 million per week until it's resolved." I opened my binder to the blue section and pulled out compliance documentation. These are Pentagon certification requirements for classified defense contracts. This is my current certification status. And this is the 120-day advance notice requirement violated when I was terminated without proper Pentagon approval. Alan Peterson leaned forward, reading the documents. His face went pale. "Bob, this clause about personnel changes, it's ironclad. Pentagon can legally suspend all classified work until compliance is restored." Board member Gerald Walsh, retired general himself, nodded grimly. "How long for recertification? For someone new?" 6 to 8 months, assuming they pass background check and security clearance review. For me, I can have Colonel Murphy on the phone Monday morning. "What are your terms?" asked Board Chairman Richard Hayes. I slid a single sheet across the table. "Chief Manufacturing Officer reporting directly to this board. Full authority over all defense contract operations. Salary commensurate with preventing the company from losing $200 million in active contracts." Hayes read it, passed it to other members. No discussion needed. They'd done the math. "Unanimously approved," Hayes announced. "Alan, draw up paperwork. Bob, when can you start?" "Monday morning, but first we discuss Jason's transition." Already handled, Harvey said quietly. Security escorted him out an hour ago. Patricia Wells is processing his paperwork. I nodded. No satisfaction, no gloating, just business. I'll need to review all operational changes he implemented. Some supplier modifications may have created additional compliance issues. Whatever you need, Hayes replied. The weekend passed quietly. I spent Saturday afternoon working on my 1967 Mustang, replacing the carburetor and thinking about simple machines that do exactly what you expect. Sunday, I called my Navy buddies, let them know I was going back to work. Monday morning, 5:30 a.m., I pulled into the plant parking lot and saw lights on in the main office. Good. Work to do. My new office was twice the size of my old one, windows overlooking the factory floor. Someone had moved my personal items, picture of my late wife Sarah, USS Enterprise reunion mug, the small flag Tommy's daughter made in 3rd grade, brass nameplate read Robert Anderson, Chief Manufacturing Officer, first call, Colonel Murphy. Colonel, this is Bob Anderson at Great Lakes Manufacturing, calling to confirm restoration of compliance for our classified projects. Bob, good to hear from you. We received board notification this weekend about your new position. Just need updated certification documents and we can lift the suspension. I'll have them to you by noon today, Colonel. Outstanding. And Bob, next time someone calls about personnel changes without proper documentation, I'm referring them directly to you. Yes, sir. Exactly how it should work. By 9 a.m., word had spread through the plant. Tommy Rodriguez stopped by with coffee and a grin. Heard you got promoted, Chief. Just getting back to work, Tommy. How are crews handling the production delays? They're ready. Morale's been rough since, well, you know. Jason's changes? That, and he tried switching our steel supplier to some outfit in Malaysia. Had to explain that security clearance doesn't cover foreign suppliers for classified components. I made notes in my binder. Another compliance issue to review. The morning was spent on damage control, calling suppliers to confirm delivery schedules, reviewing Jason's operational changes with engineering, starting paperwork to restore Pentagon contracts. At noon, I called Colonel Murphy. Colonel, certification documents are in your system. Received and approved, Bob. Contract suspension lifted effective immediately. Production can resume tomorrow morning. The fines had officially stopped ticking. Jason's 8-month efficiency improvement had lasted exactly 4 days and cost Great Lakes approximately $3 million in penalties alone. But we weren't done yet. Tuesday morning brought the sound I'd missed most, the production lines humming back to life, delivery schedules updated and transmitted to the Pentagon, quality control resuming methodical testing of every component, the heartbeat of American manufacturing steady and strong. I spent the morning reviewing Jason's operational changes, and what I found made my blood pressure spike. 3 potential compliance violations, 2 safety shortcuts that could have killed someone, and 1 cost-cutting measure that would have voided our quality certifications entirely. All of it documented in my binder now, all of it being reversed. Back on schedule, Chief, Tommy Rodriguez reported at noon, bringing production reports. Crews are happy to be working again. How's morale? Better. Word got around about what really happened. People respect that you had their backs. That afternoon, Alan Peterson from legal stopped by with a thick folder. Bob, I've reviewed Jason's employment termination. Clean, no legal issues. Patricia Wells submitted her resignation this morning, taking a position with a consulting firm in Detroit. Smart move on her part. What about the operational changes? All reversed as of this morning. We're back to your original supplier network, your quality control procedures, your safety protocols. The board authorized complete restoration of your operational framework. I opened my binder to the green section, successful resolutions, and made notes. Pentagon contracts secure, employees back to work, company reputation intact. But I wasn't finished documenting Jason's mess. Wednesday brought an unexpected visitor, Colonel Murphy himself, touring the facility, reviewing our quality control procedures, meeting with the engineering team. Professional, thorough, satisfied with what he saw. Bob, this is exactly the kind of operation we like to see, he told me as we finished the tour. Consistent leadership, institutional knowledge, commitment to excellence. The Pentagon values long-term relationships with contractors who understand our requirements. Thank you, Colonel. We take our responsibilities seriously here. It shows. I'll be recommending Great Lakes for consideration on some upcoming projects, significant contracts that require exactly this kind of operational stability, new projects, potential growth, more jobs for the local community, the kind of opportunities that come to companies with proven track records and leadership that understands the business. What kind of projects, Colonel? Can't discuss details yet, but we're talking about a potential $150 million contract over the next 3 years. Advanced components for next-generation armored vehicles. Requires the highest security clearances and absolute reliability. I did quick math. Current active contracts worth $200 million, plus potential $150 million new business. Total exposure of $350 million that Jason nearly destroyed with his efficiency initiatives. Thursday afternoon, Richard Hayes called a brief board meeting. 5 minutes, one agenda item. Bob, the board wants to formalize our appreciation for your handling of this situation. Effective immediately, your compensation package includes performance bonuses tied to contract renewals and new Pentagon business. We're also adding a clause to your employment agreement. Any future termination requires unanimous board approval and 90 days notice. I smiled. Appreciate the confidence, Richard. You've earned it. This company has learned valuable lessons about institutional knowledge and proper leadership. The week wasn't over yet. Thursday evening, I was reviewing supplier contracts when my phone rang. Tommy Rodriguez calling from the plant. Chief, we got a problem. That Malaysian steel supplier Jason contracted with? They just delivered a shipment. Quality control flagged it. Wrong grade steel. Certifications don't match specifications. I grabbed my keys. I'll be right there. 20 minutes later, I stood in our receiving dock looking at 2 tons of substandard steel that could have ended up in Bradley fighting vehicle armor plating. The kind of mistake that gets soldiers killed and companies blacklisted from defense work permanently. How much did we order from them? Jason signed a 6-month contract. This is just the first delivery. I called Alan Peterson at home. Alan, we need to cancel that Malaysian steel contract immediately. Quality violations, potential security issues. Already on it, Bob. Found the contract in Jason's files this afternoon. We're invoking the quality compliance clause, cancellation without penalty. Good. And Alan, run a complete audit of every supplier change Jason made. I want to know if there are other time bombs waiting to explode. Friday brought the audit results. Jason had attempted to switch 5 critical suppliers to cheaper alternatives. 3 were in countries with questionable security relationships with the United States. 2 had quality certifications that wouldn't meet Pentagon standards. 1 was actually on a State Department watch list for companies with ties to foreign intelligence services. Any one of those changes could have cost us our security clearance permanently. Together, they represented a complete dismantling of the supply chain integrity we'd built over 3 decades. I sat in my office that evening, updating my binder with the week's events. The compliance crisis was resolved, but the investigation had revealed something more dangerous. Systematic incompetence that went beyond simple cost-cutting. Jason hadn't just ignored our procedures. He'd actively undermined systems designed to protect national security. My phone rang. Colonel Murphy again. Bob, just wanted to give you a heads up. We're fast-tracking approval for those new projects I mentioned. The Pentagon is impressed with Great Lakes' stability and wants to expand our partnership. Final approval should come through next week. I leaned back in my chair, watching the sun set over Lake Erie through my office windows. We'll be ready, Colonel. I know you will. That's why we're calling you. After I hung up, I made one final entry in my binder. Date, time, outcome. The way I documented every major event for 28 years. But this entry was different. This wasn't just about solving a crisis or winning a contract. This was about proving that experience matters. That institutional knowledge has value. That competence trumps credentials every time. The building was quiet now except for the steady rhythm of night shift machinery. I closed my binder, turned off the lights, and headed for the parking lot. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, but tonight, I was exactly where I belonged. The following Monday brought news that made the whole ordeal worthwhile. Colonel Murphy called at 8:15 a.m., his voice carrying the kind of satisfaction that comes with bureaucratic victory. Bob, it's official. Pentagon approval came through this weekend. Great Lakes Manufacturing is awarded the Advanced Armor Components contract, $150 million over 3 years, with options for renewal. I set down my coffee mug, the USS Enterprise reunion one that had survived Jason's purge, and smiled. Thank you, Colonel. We won't let you down. I know you won't. Your response to the recent crisis demonstrated exactly the kind of leadership stability we require for classified projects. The contract details will be transmitted this afternoon. After hanging up, I did the final math. Jason's efficiency initiative had lasted exactly 4 business days and cost Great Lakes approximately $3 million in direct penalties. But his systematic dismantling of our supplier network, quality controls, and compliance procedures could have cost us everything: our security clearance, our reputation, our $200 million in active contracts, and now this new $150 million opportunity. Total exposure, $350 million. All of it saved by a compliance clause I'd written after dealing with Jason's predecessor back in 2019. I walked the factory floor that morning, stopping at each station to check on operations. The CNC machines hummed their precise rhythm, cutting components to tolerances measured in thousandths of an inch. Quality control inspectors tested every piece with the methodical care that keeps soldiers alive. The wall of photos showed our products in action overseas: Bradley fighting vehicles, Apache helicopters, M1 Abrams tanks, all carrying components built right here in Cleveland. Mr. Anderson? Kevin Torres, the young engineer who'd worried about his job, approached with a clipboard. I wanted to show you something. We've identified potential improvements to the armor plating process that could increase strength by 12% while reducing weight. How long have you been working on this? Since you came back, sir. The team's been motivated to prove what we can do with proper leadership. I reviewed his calculations, impressed by the engineering rigor. Submit this through proper channels. If it tests out, we'll present it to the Pentagon as a value-added enhancement. Yes, sir. Thank you for listening. That's what Jason never understood. You don't motivate engineers with buzzwords and efficiency metrics. You motivate them by respecting their expertise and giving them resources to excel. Tuesday afternoon brought the contract signing ceremony. Richard Hayes, the board chairman, insisted on a formal presentation. The conference room where Jason had fired me was transformed with American flags, Great Lakes banners, and a table full of legal documents that would keep us busy for the next 3 years. Bob, Hayes announced to the assembled board members, this contract represents the largest single award in Great Lakes history. Your leadership during the recent crisis not only saved the company, but positioned us for unprecedented growth. I thought about Tommy Rodriguez and his pension, now secure for the foreseeable future. About Kevin Torres and his innovative spirit, finally supported by management that understood engineering excellence. About the machinists and quality control inspectors whose decades of experience were valued again. Thank you, Richard. But this success belongs to everyone who kept working when things looked uncertain. The people on the factory floor who build precision components day after day. The engineers who never stop improving our processes. The supervisors who maintain safety and quality standards. Wednesday brought a surprise visitor. Patricia Wells, Jason's former corporate relations director, stopping by during her last week before moving to Detroit. Bob, I wanted to apologize personally. I knew Jason's decisions were questionable, but I didn't have the courage to speak up during that meeting. What would you have said, Patricia, that firing you violated every principle of institutional management? That defense contracting requires continuity and expertise? That boards hire consultants to think outside the box, but some boxes exist for good reasons? Lesson learned? Lesson learned. My new position is with a manufacturing consulting firm. I'm going to spend the next year learning what I should have known before giving HR advice to defense contractors. Smart woman. She'd figured out that credentials without knowledge are just expensive pieces of paper. Thursday evening, I sat in my office as the day shift ended and the night crew took over. My binder lay open on the desk, updated with new contracts, new procedures, new success stories. 28 years of experience, accumulated one lesson at a time, organized and preserved for future challenges. The phone rang one last time. Harvey Goldman, our CEO, calling to thank me personally. Bob, the board met in executive session this afternoon. We voted unanimously to name you Executive Vice President of Operations, effective immediately. Salary increase, stock options, and a seat on the Strategic Planning Committee. Appreciate it, Harvey, but Chief Manufacturing Officer suits me fine. I like being close to the work. Then we'll create a new title. Chief Operating Officer, Manufacturing Division, same authority, better recognition. I looked through my office windows at the factory floor below. Tommy Rodriguez was briefing the night shift supervisors. The CNC machines continued their precise work. Quality control inspectors maintained their vigilant testing, the rhythm of American manufacturing, steady and strong. Harvey, there's something more important than titles. Make sure the next time someone suggests efficiency improvements, they understand the difference between cutting costs and cutting corners. Message received, Bob. Loud and clear. The building grew quiet except for the steady hum of night shift machinery. I closed my binder, turned off the lights, and headed for the parking lot. My pickup started on the first try, like it had every day for the past 12 years. Reliable, dependable, built to last, just like the company I'd saved, the people I'd protected, and the principles that matter when the stakes are real. The road home was clear, the stars bright, and Monday morning couldn't come soon enough.